Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 219 with Hilary, Saxton and Bob Anderson. Today we are talking about the gift of property development and why it changes your life. So we're going to unpack what actually happens when people become property developers, the actual gift, the ripple effect, and so much more. Jump on in. Hello and welcome to episode 219. Obviously, I'm Hilary Saxton and that's Bob Anderson. Hey, Bob.
G'day, Hilary.
You say it like you haven't seen me all day.
No.
But you have.
But I have.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
All day, most days. Oh, I did go out for a bit of a walk. Didn't see me then.
Didn't see me when on mine either.
And you went for breakfast. I didn't go to breakfast.
True.
Hey, just talking today about the gift of property development. And it sort of has opened so many doors when I even say that. But before we get started, do we have a tip for the day?
Yeah.
What's the tip?
Always have a tip ready in case somebody asks you if you have a tip.
And what's your tip?
That's it.
Oh.
Always have one ready.
Okay, I'm hearing that you probably don't have one ready. Okay, I'll let you off. Let's give away the book, Bob. Property Millionaires Exposed. Ross Delaney coming to you. Great chat last week. Can't wait till you join us in the mentoring program. But someone will reach out. Shelley will give you an email and we'll send that over to you. Look forward to working with you and meeting you. Okay, Bob, the gift of property development. Before we even kick into that, we'll just open up with what's going on. We've got our 3-day workshop coming up this weekend. So this comes out on Thursday. Our workshop starts Friday. It's sold out, which is just epic. So we actually sold out, got a bigger room, and that sold as well. So that's such great news. And it's just a phenomenal event. You've done how many?
Close to 90, I think.
Close to 90. And when you think about that, close to 90 and from hundreds, smaller rooms, then to hundreds, and then to thousands of people. Wow. How many people do you think you've spoken to in your life about property development?
About property development? Oh, I had a rough guess because that's all you could do. About 60,000 last time I had a count.
There's a lot of people to talk to property development. And then this. In this, we're up to episode 219, and how many people are listening? So welcome to you listening. Thanks for listening. Hey, and also hit subscribe. We would love for you to hit subscribe. It makes more people be able to find us, which is good. And did you know we won a Gold Stevie Award for this podcast? That's a global award. And I said to a couple of people that I was talking to, one was the new marketing team that we've got that we're working with, which is great. I was just talking to them about it. And I said, oh my goodness, sometimes, the podcast, I might have a technical problem or something goes wrong. And I said, and we just put it out anyway. And she said, that's what it's about. We're so consistent. I think in the 219, we've missed 2. And one was my father's funeral. And there may have been another. It may only have been one. That's crazy. And so that, I think people like the fact that we're fairly consistent. We're blooming consistent. And
yeah, and we are. Doesn't mean you jumping out of your skin to do a podcast every time we do one. We're just normal people. Yeah, sometimes you're busy, you're tired, you're hungry, or whatever. But hey, time to do a podcast. Let's hit the switch and do one. Mm. And we've normally got some subjects lined up that we want to talk about, and then that's it. Once I start talking about property, I know you're the same. It sort of energizes you, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do just pretty much riff off each other. I do notice when we don't have as much energy though, especially when I do my own podcast, because I listen to it myself. I don't always listen back to this one, somebody else does. But when I do mine, so if you want a bit of inspiration, mine's the Bounce Back Better podcast. And I can tell if I've done it later in the day. I just don't have that much energy. There's just a little bit less. And podcasting by yourself is a lot more difficult than like you and I doing it. It's so much easy. Much easier, not easy, so much easier to do it with 2 of us.
Yeah, definitely much easier with 2 of us. With one, I've done a couple on my own. I thought, no, it's just not the same. Like, you can get energy off the other person. You can throw questions back and forth, and that's what we do. And that's why I think people like our podcast so much too, because it's the 2 of us just being real.
Oh, yeah. You don't get much more real than this. In fact, after this one, we're going out for dinner. So we are doing it later in the day, but we are going out for dinner. So I'm kind of a little bit excited. Well, Bob, we're talking about the gift of property development. And before I even go into how I was going to unpack this today, I think that you have given so many people the gift of property development. And you must feel pretty good about that. The fact that you've spoken to over 60,000 people, excluding the people that listen to this. But the education and the lives that you've been able to change, it would be just phenomenal. And because our community are active and they are developers doing things, wow, do you ever sit back and think, crikey, I've made a difference? Because I think that's what we're all here for on this earth, to make a difference. And I think you have. Do you think about it?
Not a lot, but I do sometimes. And as I say, a lot of people want to make a difference. They don't always have the opportunity, but look, make a difference wherever you can. It might be your family. Making a difference might be the way you raise your kids, the way you treat your partner. That's making a difference. And I guess we're blessed in a way because we can make a difference to a lot of people because of what we do, because of the fact that we teach property development, we hold people's hands through property development. We change their lives in many ways. Psychologically, you do a lot with people. Change their finances for sure in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to be in a position to be able to do that like we are, it's a responsibility. I don't take it lightly, but I love it and I enjoy it.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's a blessing. That's what it is, to be able to do that.
And really, that's what I was talking about, the gift. So you've been given the gift of being able to teach it, because knowing something and teaching something are two different things. So that is something that you've got. But let's talk about the gift, like what property development actually does for people. I did talk about it a little bit in last week's podcast that I did, the Property Mastermind one by myself, where I talked about you getting your time back and being able to go and watch your kids at school. But that is something that I do hear, the fact that somebody gets their time back. When you're on that grind, that 8 to 5, people, they just have enough of it sometimes. And how often have you seen that, Bob?
Oh, you see it all the time. We talk to people who are burnt out with their job. They dislike it. They don't get on with their boss. And often people, particularly these days, people are so busy. Their jobs demand more of them than jobs used to. They have very little time, and basically their lifestyle's out the back door. If you think of lifestyle, what is lifestyle? What's a good lifestyle? It's different things to different people, but I think a really good lifestyle is to be able to do all the things you want to do, when you want to do them, with whom you want to do them, and not to have to think about time constraints and not to have to think about money constraints. Imagine that. What a life that would be. but that, okay, let's aspire to that.
Yeah, and we're saying you listening, aspire to that, aspire to wanting your time back, aspire to doing the things you want to do with the people you want to do them, because you have that time back. I mean, I know, hand on heart, that Bob's stoked that he's coming to Downtown Abbey with me tonight.
Ooh, can't wait.
I will guarantee he's going to be asleep in the movie theatres.
Ever since I first heard they were making another one,
it's the last
one. I've been on tenterhooks just waiting for it.
When you were saying getting your time back and doing the things that you want to do, that's when I thought of that. But realistically, the fact that property development can give you your time back, that's the day-to-day time. But let's look at time as in your retirement plan time. It can, bring that forward. It can change how that looks for people, can't it? Because of what it brings in financially.
Yeah, and we're talking about time. I did mention money. Having heaps of time isn't necessarily a great thing. I mean, you could have lost your job and you can't get another job. You got lots of time on your hands, but you can't enjoy your life because you haven't got the money and the financial security trying to get another job. So if you could make a lot more money and have a lot more spare time, that would give you the lifestyle that so many people crave. But you're right with time. I mean, time is something you can't buy. Elon Musk, as wealthy as he is, he can't buy 1 second of time. He's got the same 1 second, 60 seconds a minute, 60 minutes an hour, the same as you and I do.
He's got the same 168 hours a week, Bob.
He might have many, many more billions of dollars, but from the time point of view, no. And that's what you need to do. I mean, you've got to try and get yourself into a position where you have a lot more available time for quality pursuits, or just relaxation, which is a quality pursuit in itself. But without money, enough to do those pursuits, it's difficult as well. In the same way, you can have a heap of money and no spare time, and money's not by itself won't make you happy. I mean, You only have to look at Who magazine or one of those magazines around. It's full of rich people who are really unhappy. So, it's balance, but time really critical because you can't buy it.
And Bob, I think it sort of pulls me into right now. I'm learning a new keynote and just talking about making those defining decisions. And while we're talking about time and the busyness that we have, people are so busy and they get caught just doing the same thing over and over, and they end up by shrinking their childhood dreams into adult routines and either forgetting to do something about it or calling it, I'm safe here and I don't want to do anything about it. But I probably am more likely to think people would want to do something about it, but they don't really allocate that time to think, I need to do something about this. And property development is just such a great way to buy back time, to change your financial situation, to change your family. I mean, look at what it does for families.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's it done for your family?
Oh, I'll cast my mind back a long time. Things like, I'm not talking about big houses and fancy cars. I've done all that, but like really quality time. Be able to go on holidays. My kids are full adults. Two of them are married with kids. The other one's got a lovely girlfriend. But when I asked them, what are the things you really remember about growing up in the family that you really loved? None of it was about, when you bought the new such and such a car, or when we moved into the big house with the this and that and everything else.
The swimming pool and all the bits.
Yeah, none of it was about that. It was about the holidays. What about that holiday where we went and hired a van and travelled around New Zealand, and then they started saying all these funny things that happened,
and they were camping holidays more than anything, weren't they? They weren't luxurious holidays. They were just camping fun holidays.
Fun holidays, camping holidays, hiring camper vans, travelling. I've had some nice holidays too here. Go to Europe and go to nice places, but that's what it's all. What they really remembered and what they loved the most was all those happy family times we did together. Now, if I didn't have the time and didn't have the money, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
And also, when I talk about family being another thing that property development gives us, it also gives us the opportunity to help our family. And that doesn't necessarily mean buying them a house or giving them the deposit, or it does mean that depending on what you decide you want to do. Everyone's got their own values and how they want to move forward. But being able to help kids out, we just spent 2 weeks ago, we were in New Zealand to help kids out. How many times we jumped on a plane because we can property develop from anywhere and help kids out. Crikey, we've painted lounge rooms with kids. We've done all sorts of things where, help them shift and that sort of family stuff it's such a gift. And that is one of the gifts that property development gives us, as well as you could take it to the extreme and looking at the legacy and what you leave behind and what you give them on the way. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can be those little things like you're talking about, the camping holidays or the helping out or the rendering of your daughter's house. She said, can you come and help us? Oh my goodness, I've still got scars on my arm from that stuff. We're like, yeah, of course we can. We took a few days out and just went and did help them out because they were doing a big reno, and that's that family time that had we had an 8 to 5 job, that would not have been able to happen. And then going back and helping them paint it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And they made a great wee profit off that. So they were in a renovation phase, which was just fantastic. So that's another way that property development helps. 1, getting your time back. 2, with family, giving us opportunities there. And the other one I want to cover off, Bob, is identity. Like property development changes your identity. Are you with me on this? Can you unpack it a wee bit?
Yep, it does. Some people struggle a little bit, particularly when they're starting out, with the so-called imposter syndrome, and that can hold them back from taking on the identity of a property developer. And that's something you've got to get over. And I know you've done some good work with people on that, but also speaking about it. But beyond that, I say you have to be confident to be a property developer, but being a property developer also makes you confident, and not just competent, but confident. And it's like being a property developer. I've had some people say to me, I don't really want to call myself a property developer because people think I'm snooty or not think nice of me. And I thought, property developers are fantastic. In some way, some people think there's a stigma on it, like a used car salesman. there's a heap of ethical used car salesmen. They seem to have gotten on the wrong side. Or, the tax man or something, and property developers, or they rip people off. Like, that's rubbish.
I actually think it's also a bit of, if somebody says they're a property developer, and this is what I've noticed working with mentoring students, they feel like people will think, who do you think you are? You're not a property developer. I think they think that. And personally, I know it took me forever to say property developer. I think I've mentioned it on this podcast, finally write it on my passport form now when I'm traveling through the country. But I think a lot of it's more around people think, who do you think you are? But if you're developing property, you're a property developer. And I can liken that to, and this is where I've worked with people quite a lot. So if this applies for you, think about it. If you read a book often, what do you call yourself? A reader. If you go to church regularly, what do you call yourself? A Christian. If you run triathlons, you call yourself a triathlete. It doesn't mean you're still not a parent and do this or do it. Doesn't discount everything else. And property development is the same. So it can give you that identity of, I am a property developer. It's something I do on the side. I'm hoping to do it full time. I'm going to keep doing it on the side. And I create properties and jobs and so many other things for other people. And I think that the identity side of that is so good for people's confidence. We talked about confidence earlier. Who's your number one mentoring student over the last 4 or 5 years that has just, you've seen confidence grow?
Oh, Kaz probably. Who else? Kyle. Kyle Gibb.
What makes you say the accidental developer?
The accidental developer. When you say growing, that's really hit me, because when Kyle first phoned, I spoke to him on the phone. He phoned our office and he wanted to find out how he could be guided through a property development, because he was put in a position where he actually had to do one, and which is why we call him the accidental developer. And I'm sure Kyle doesn't mind me saying this because he's heard me say it before. I've never spoken to such a nervous person on the phone. His voice was about 6 octaves, if that's the right word, higher than normal. He kept stopping. His mouth was dry, like just talking about the fact that he needed to become a property developer.
He was asking for help and talking himself out of the situation of which he was planted in and couldn't help.
Yeah.
And you know what? He loves when we talk about him on the podcast here.
So from that
you
base,
make us proud, Kyle.
Of course we are. From that base to where he is now, if people talk to Kyle and didn't know his history, they probably think, he's the CEO of a big development company.
Well, I tell you what, he turned up. We had a bit of a get-together with people around the Sunshine Coast, Brisbane area, and he came along to it. And he actually looks like one of those barbers now, because he's got one of those really groomed beards and he's got his hair looking really schmick. And I was just like, whoa. So he has changed his identity. And I think it's made him really love what he does and what he's been able to do, because he's been able to change his life, his family's life, his mother-in-law's life. He's been able to change so many lives. And I think that when we talk about identity for somebody like him, it makes him feel good about himself. And I'm not saying that people go to work 8 to 5 and don't feel good about themselves. They bring in a pay whatever every week. But I think when you get to do something that's enormous, that makes you feel good, and that does change your identity to have more confidence, to feel like a property developer.
Yeah, and you grow into it.
Yes, he grew into that perfectly.
Where's he going to go?
I don't know. Well, he is coming to the workshop, and I'll look forward to that. Well, actually, I do know he's looking at another site right now.
Of course he is.
Yeah, but you do. We will see him at the workshop, so it will be good to find out where he's up to. But you did bring up somebody else, Bob. You also said Kaz. And for those of you who are on any of our Facebook pages, she did our mentoring program. And who would have thought, female, her name's Karen, but who would have thought that she would have gone on? She actually sent me a text today, because I always keep in touch with people, and she'd posted a picture of herself eating oysters, and I said, eating again, because she always posts eating pictures. And she said something back, but then she said, I've just got her first keeping site. So the idea when you do development is you do a couple and you sell them off. Well, she's got one that she's keeping. She told me the return. She told me how much she's putting in, and she's just so happy. So She said, like, that's big goal. That's one of her big goals underway. And that's, as developers, we all want to do that. You get to a point where you want to be not selling them off. You want to be keeping them. And that's her transitioning into that next phase. And, Bob, how awesome is that? And, full hats off to Kaz as well. She always tells people that she learned from us. She always sends people our way. And that's so nice when people give you the credibility. I came through this because there's lots of education places, and if people pretend they woke up with the information in their head and don't give you or us the kudos, for us it sometimes is a little bit frustrating. We sort of think, oh, thanks for nothing. We might listen to someone's podcast and they didn't say, like, they learned everything of you, have bent over backwards, talked them out of hours, loaned them money, done so many things for them, and they don't even say that. That's quite frustrating. But that's something Kaz and Kyle both do. They both say it's from here, and we do really appreciate it. But anyway, what were your thoughts on Kaz when I told you that she's hit that phase? She's hit I'm keeping property phase.
Yeah. Oh, well, great, because that's the big long game. So that's like you just mentioned, one of the great things about property development is you can develop and sell and you get a bunch of cash, or you can develop and keep your product for long-term growth and long-term income, or you can do a mix, sell some, keep some out of the same project. So that's the gift that keeps giving. You talk about the gift that keeps giving. That's when you develop something and keep it, because you develop at absolutely raw cost, then you get to keep it. And then it keeps going up in value. Then you keep getting income off it. They're quite different from buying an investment property. This is creating it at absolute raw cost. So, yeah, and that's exciting. So back to Kaz, yeah, pretty excited when I heard that, but not surprised either.
So, but what other unexpected benefits, and probably just even unpacking that story, the unexpected benefits from that are who she gets to help. And that might mean because she's now getting income, because this is an income producing asset that she's got, she gets to go on and do other things, whether it's, I know she's a nana, maybe it's helping her children, maybe it's, nana reading at school, who knows what else she goes off to do. But there are so many other benefits that are a gift from property development that people just do not see.
Yeah, and, we even mentioned some before with time. If you got more time, like I was going to say lucky, but you make your own luck a lot of the time. But when my kids were going through school, and I could take that time off, as you know, I never missed a soccer game, a netball game, a t-ball game, or whatever it was. I was always there for
the horse thing.
Oh, well, yeah, pony club and you name it, done it all. But that's like really building a bond with your children, whereas I know you can do it after hours because most people have to, but, I had that as well, where I could take time off and do all that. As I've said before, a lot of the mums, because I'm just usually the only guy there, it could be a soccer game on, watching one of my kids. There's like 12 people. There's 11 women plus me, 11 mums. I'm sure they thought I was unemployed. But just being able to do that and, go and hop on a parents' race at the school athletics, like all that sort of stuff. And I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise.
It also makes me think about the opportunity that we've had to. Two of our kids have worked for Property Mastermind. One of yours, one of mine, for a substantial amount of time. So it has employed them as well. And for both of them in that time that they worked here, because it's a small family business, there's that opportunity to grow with like a few mistakes, or it's flexible. You're not held to the office. Crikey. I remember Georgia Bliven, she was going home from weddings or going back to New Zealand, all over the place, but no one checked the clock because it's family. They'll do it when they're going to do it later.
And look how much she learned about property just while she was here, and what she and John are gone on and done and will do more of.
And the same with Luke. Like Luke, Bob's son, is a financial planner. He worked within this business. He made the Property Mastermind a feasibility calculator. He was a very smart man, very smart man. But that's something that's part of this business that's been a gift from property development. And we're doing all this so you can reflect and think, wow, that's what I can do. You can do this too.
Yeah, it can be intergenerational. This is the thing. Because once you've got knowledge, you've got it. Like once you've learned how to do property development, ideally been helped through it, do it well, learn from it, and then you go and do another. That knowledge that you've built up to be able to do that, and it's incredible knowledge. It's not like the knowledge of, how to make a fruit cake or, anything else. It's a knowledge of how to make great amounts of money. Got to do it correctly, obviously. And the knowledge of being able to do that is intergenerational, because then you can pass that knowledge on to your children. And if they want to go on with it, they can. And, we've, on a number of occasions in the past, I think it's the same with this workshop. We've had people who are in our mentoring program bring along their children in their late teens, and because they want to get them to understand more about property development, that they might like to go on with it. And they'll probably do developments themselves together, like we've done developments with our kids. And then eventually the what was once a kid will go on with it. And that's intergenerational.
And or not. They just might use that as how they get started into the property market if they want to buy a house or do something else. But it gives them a leg up, because property development is that chunk money, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, let's say they don't really want to go on with it, or your kids aren't that interested in property development. You can set them up for life by getting them into a development as a joint venture. You could do 3 townhouses, let's say, and if you structure it correctly, do it well, finance it properly, they could end up with one of those townhouses. You sell 2 of them, your child ends up with the 3rd one at a hugely discounted price, and that gets them into the market if it's the only thing you ever did. And it doesn't cost you any money, because as a developer, let's say as a parent, you're still making money out of the 2 you sold. And so like that's a huge thing. Like how many parents can do that? A lot of parents, when they're trying to help their kids out with like a house, they take a chunk of their super and give them it as a deposit, or they go on as guarantors and then they're all tied up. That's a brilliant thing if you can do property development. It's, when I say it's the gift that keeps giving, it really is.
Mm. And going back to the identity that I talked about, the identity that people take on, I've seen, just by looking back and seeing who's in the community, it's great to see sometimes maybe the husband stays on doing his job and the wife goes into property development. That I just love seeing that. I love seeing that as the identity. And in fact, Nicole, if you're listening, hats off to you. It's you who leads development in your family, because sometimes that's just how it is. But it doesn't mean that they're not both on the same page. The same page is we need the gift of time back. We need that, we need what property development can give us. But sometimes someone else has to take on that role, that identity, to be that person. And it is a struggle for some initially, but once they do it, it's a life changer and a game changer, and they become more confident with it. And once they're more confident, well, it's just game on.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realise is that the amount of hours it takes out of your life to do a property development is not at all high, because as a developer, we just coordinate other people, architects, engineers, builders. We coordinate those people. They're the one that put in the hours. When, say, you're building a duplex, as a developer, it's probably, once it starts construction, it's probably an hour and a half a week's work for you, but for the builder, it might be their full-time job. And so that's brilliant, because even, and I've seen plenty of women as part of a partnership become the developer, and not too long they're the principal money earner because of the amount of money you can make. But you could easily do 2 projects, not large projects, 2 projects just in school hours. Like if you made your work time 9:30 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. and deal with your kids before and your kids after, you could easily handle 2 projects.
Well, if that's not inspiring, what is? And as you were saying, the female becomes a breadwinner. You're secretly on the inside. Come on, Hilary, it's your turn.
Yeah,
do one on your own. Do a few more.
Yeah, those 2 projects on average over a whole project. And there's times when you work busier and times when you're not busy, but probably average out about 10, 12 hours a week. So you could easily do it, and that's great. That's life changing.
It is, and it really is the gift that keeps on giving, like you did say.
Another thing I just thought of, and I've seen people do this, is pay down their mortgage. Say you've got a 20, 30-year mortgage. You could 2 or 3 small projects, 5 years, totally pay your mortgage out.
That's what I was going to say. Would you count one development as a gift? Yes, because it's that chunk money. If you get a chunk of money given to you, it could just be to do that thing.
Yeah. I mean, we got plenty of people who've even done duplexes, make 400,000 or 500,000 out of a duplex. Okay, got to pay tax on it, but it's
4, 5,
not,
6 actually.
Yeah, 400,000, 600,000 out of a duplex, and you pay some tax, but of course your tax is a lot less because of the way you can structure the whole business side of property development. Way less tax than you pay as an individual. But anyway, pay it anyway. But just out of maybe 2 projects, or as I said, perhaps 3, you could completely pay off a pretty whacking mortgage. You know, say you did two projects, made $1 million, you ended up with 725,000 after tax. That could be your mortgage.
How good would that be?
And you can do that while you've got a job, so you're not like it's instead of a job as well as.
Full disclosure, this one though, it can be a bit front heavy at the start when you're looking. You can spend a bit of time, so it is that initial time. But once you get underway, that's nothing.
You might do a smaller project and make 350,000. I mean, who cares? That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money,
and it's all relative. Like, who cares? I can't think of anything you could do in property development and not make a 6-figure profit. Do it properly though.
I think one of the key takeaways here is property development doesn't just change your bank account. It actually changes your life.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's not just about money. Certainly a primary reason for doing it. It's one of the byproducts of doing a good development.
It's about money, but it's what the money does for you. And
Same as anything.
Yes.
You can waste your money. You can go and gamble. You can make $350,000 profit, and plenty of people out there will lose that in a year doing dumb stuff. So, like, the money by itself's great. You got to be sensible. But then if you're sensible, if you're that sort of person, you probably wouldn't have done a property development in the first place. But, so it's the time, it's the lifestyle, it's what it gives you back. Like you said, a lot more than the money. Money's important, sure. It's what you do with it. But and that amount of time, as I just explained, the amount of time in doing a small project is way less than most people would imagine.
So it's the gift that keeps on giving. Bob, what other key takeaway, before we wind this one up, would you like to remind people about when it comes to property development?
Well, it is within striking range of the average person.
It is within.
It's not something you need a degree for. Don't go and get a degree. You can get degrees in property development. Unless you want to work for Mirvac or Australian or Lendlease, don't do it. Learn how to really do it. And anyone can, average intelligence, might even say slightly less, but
stop it.
You can do it if you want to do it, but you have to be driven to do it. You have to have a good reason for wanting to do it, because you're going to get a few speed bumps, a few detours along the way. You've got to be able to deal with that. So you want a strong reason, a strong why, and but yeah, really, when I say do it, at least really give it a strong investigation initially. Don't just write it off as something, I'm too young, too old, too poor, too this, too that. They're all just excuses.
And don't keep putting it off and waiting for the best time. Like I said, you just, so many people do that. They just think, I'll do it when.
When the kids go to school, when my job settles down, when
I've got more time.
That'll never happen.
No.
You make time.
Yep.
All those things, yeah. But anyway, back to what you asked me. It certainly is within striking range for most people. And what you need to do is investigate it further. And, we're happy to talk to people about property development, whether it could be right.
I think I've started telling people we are actually launching a new program as well. So if you're interested in having a chat with me of what that looks like, offers a lot more support than just the bundle on its own, but it's between that and the big mentoring program. So if that's something you'd like to have a chat with me about, feel free to reach out. And I'm sorry you missed out on this year's workshop. It'll be a cracker. We'll put lots of stuff on social media. But feel free to join our Property Developer Secrets and Hacks Facebook page. There's going to be a lot more going on in there and really worth joining. So I think, Bob, thank you so much for helping me unpack that. I hope that people realise that property development is a gift. and it's the gift that keeps on giving, which is fabulous. It has a ripple effect. It will change your confidence, your identity, your financial situation, your family, your time, so much. So if you're thinking about it, don't think for too long. Life's too short. I think that's it. Let's wind it up, Bob.
Okay. I'm wound up.
Okay. Catch you next week. Bye.
Bye now.